Now to a tragedy so bad that it shocked and united the nation.
A scarred piece of Queensland bush with the evidence of a cold-blooded ambush, executions and a deadly firefight visible across the landscape.
As they had approached the front door, Constables Arnold and McCrow were ambushed and shot by the three occupants at close range. Rachel McCrow lay wounded. She begged for her life and they killed her anyway.
PLI-2 may be discharging rounds. Shot fired. Here's the PLI-2 is attempting to reload. Here the PLI-1 potentially taking a round here. PLI-1, no movement. No movement from number 2 and appears to be blood on the ground.
The shock magnified by the youth of the officers, just 26 and 29.
They were so young, so young.
Losing one of our own has a profound impact on every single officer and their families. To lose 2 officers in one incident is absolutely devastating.
Now, those officers went there at the request of New South Wales Police to look for a missing person, Nathaniel Train, who'd been reported missing by his wife, and a horrible surprise awaited those officers. The offenders shot Constable Rachel McCrow and Matthew Arnold in cold blood. 2 other constables managed to survive by fleeing, but so determined were the killers to flush them out of their place of refuge that they set fire to the landscape. Killed too was a Good Samaritan, 58-year-old Alan Dare.
A husband, dad, Poppy to his 6 grandchildren, and a neighbour who died trying to help.
Horrific. It was a terrible death.
Alan Dare drove to the property knowing something was wrong.
He went to help the neighbours because he thought there was a fire, and heard bangs, maybe like something, that the house is on fire.
He was gunned down, shot in the back from 150 metres away.
All 3 offenders later died in a shootout with Special Operations Police. And as for the media coverage, it was largely tactful and respectful. And given the magnitude of this tragedy, it was not surprising that journalism showed a human face.
We're bringing you absolutely terrible news, I'm sorry, this morning out of Queensland.
Disturbing details are emerging about the armed trio who killed them.
I will say they were executed by these remorseless, ruthless killers.
Commissioner, our sympathies to you and to all your officers and the police family. It's been such a terrible day.
Although I have to say I was gobsmacked by this statement from TVNZ journalist Simon Dallow from across the Tasman.
Well, as we know, Australia's no stranger to high-profile shootings, Andrew. What makes this incident stand out, though?
And equally unfathomable was this from ABC Newcastle journalist Matt Bevan, who tweeted during the police operation, "Switch to satellite view in the area where this Queensland police operation is taking place. And oh boy, that's a lot of CSG mining." Seriously? As commentator Gemma Tognini tweeted in response, 2 police officers in their 20s and a civilian murdered in cold blood. And this is the take? And there were those in the media who tried to exploit the tragedy to take a shot at media rivals. Take Guardian Australia columnist Greg Jericho, for example. The Daily Telegraph ran a story into the background of one of the killers, Nathaniel Train, a former school principal, and whether the deterioration of his physical and mental health was aggravated by a NAPLAN scandal. Tweeted Jericho, "This is disgusting." That was picked up in turn by former ABC Insiders host Barrie Cassidy, who tweeted, "Yep, the look at what a broken system made me do Murdoch approach to the cold-blooded execution of police." OK, so this is Murdoch's doing as well, Barrie Cassidy. And here is Channel 7's Robert Avadia.
Well, it's really hard to believe a man who used to be a school principal was capable of such barbarity. Today we spoke with a senior New South Wales politician who had had dealings with him. He said he left the education system embittered by the process. He fell off the grid, lived in Dubbo for a short time.
And strangely enough, Barrie Cassidy had nothing to say about that or this from the ABC's Patrick Bell.
A New South Wales town is coming to terms with its connection to one of the killers.
Disbelief, absolute disbelief.
Walgett mother Kylie McKenzie has a son living with a disability who attends the primary school where Nathaniel Train had previously been principal.
I was always welcome to go and sit with him in the office if I had any problems. He was like the gentle giant.
There was nothing wrong with that Daily Telegraph report or the coverage you just saw from Channel 7 and the ABC. Far from it being disgusting, it's the journalist's job to shed light on the killer's background. What is disgusting, however, is exploiting a tragedy like this for the purpose of a media culture war. Caroline, what did you make of the way that the media covered this story? Do you think that they were respectful, or do you think that there were lines crossed?
Oh, look, to be honest, I thought most of it was pretty good. And occasionally, you know, I mean, reporting the news can be difficult. You know, not every day is a vanilla political story. Some days journos do have to deal with tragedy. It is nice to see that sometimes, you know, they are presenting as the human beings they are. I have no difficulty with any of that. I'm sure for a lot of those people who were reporting on that news, it's going to also take them time to recover. When you're in those circumstances and you're speaking to the locals, like, it can't not have an impact on you. Similar but different, say, to the floods or the bushfires or whatever, there is human tragedy involved, and as humans, we're always left with some sort of scars. I think some of the other comments, the comments about the CSG mining and you know, apparently this is all Murdoch's fault and whatever. I mean, that there's gratuitous. It helps no one, and ultimately, it's a reflection on these people that everything that they look at in this world is through the prism of some chip on their shoulder. And look, thanks for putting your hand up and showing us who you are.
That's such a good point. When I read that, particularly the Murdoch references and then the climate change references, it's completely out of place. It has nothing to do with the substance of the story, but these people can't help themselves.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, it's redundant to say it was a tragedy. Of course it was. You can't really find words. The fact that it was so premeditated. And I think the crime in itself is the story, but there's this pressure for journalists to find different angles. Well, they were anti-vax, or one of the killer's father had some sort of religious organisation. And so there's this pressure to find an angle that no one else has found. And sometimes I think that can feed into journalists going beyond what the story obviously is to try to make more of something than it is.